Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay Fire rescuers saying there were no serious injuries reported after last night's blaze at Spence Court. Firefighters on scene confirmed the fire began on the 5th floor. Building residents reported heavy smoke as a result. 6 pumpers, an aerial ladder, and EMS responded. There's no word at this time on what caused the fire. Thunder Bay Superior North MPP Lise Vaugeois took a stand at Queen's Park this past week while delivering a large stack of petitions to the legislature. Over 360 people signed the petition to stop the closure of the Path 525 Safe Consumption and Treatment Services program at the Norwest Community Health Center.
So this petition is in support of keeping the site open. It's a critical piece of addiction care. I fully endorse this petition and will give it to Blythe.
In August, the Ford government announced their plan to close all supervised consumption sites located within 200 meters of schools or child care facilities by March of next year. Vaugeois says that contradicts the funding and support the government originally gave to create these services and community safety strategies in the first place. Closing Path 525 would mean the loss of Northwestern Ontario's only safe consumption site. Many people in the recovery community have spoken out about how vital this service is as part of overall addiction treatment services. And there's a fear that canceling the program will lead to more fatal overdoses and drug usage out in the open. Vaugeois stresses the impact on everyone.
The addictions crisis is hard on everyone, hard on those living in encampments and hard on those worried about safety in their neighborhoods. But the closure of consumption treatment sites goes against the recommendations of the province's own experts, and that is because these sites improve community safety and save lives. 465 lives in Thunder Bay alone, 465 people who did not need emergency services, and 465 people who lived long enough to get access to other supports.
Tragic overdoses can happen at any time in Thunder Bay. Dino Chicatano with the Cooperators Group and DEC Foundation founder Carolyn Carl know that pain all too well, as they both lost a child to overdoses. This week, the Cooperators donated $10,000 to the foundation and its goal to bring more detox beds to Thunder Bay. Volunteers with the DEC Foundation participate in many local events to support their cause, including the die-in last week at City Hall. Chicatano remembers his son Frankie as a warm-hearted young man. His company made the big donation to Carl's group in hopes of making a change in the community.
Thought this would be a good charity to invest some money into to help young ladies on the street who are suffering with addiction. And Carolyn, I've met Carolyn, and I really like what she's doing for her charity, and I'm very proud of what she's doing, and I felt this would be a good organization to give some money to.
It's a really difficult thing to see people go through, and I know the pain and the sadness and the void, and I wish I could take away some of that pain. But I say to Dino often, our kids were incredible, and we need to remember them that way and never let them be forgotten. So this is a great legacy for all the kids. You know, like I said, I do this for Dana, for my healing, but I'm doing it for all the other families as well.
One main goal of the DEC Foundation is to fund an aftercare home for women completing addiction treatment. Donations like the recent $10,000 gift from the Cooperators will also help provide education support, offering vital resources for recovery and a fresh start. South of the border now, where Americans are just days away from casting their ballots in this 2024 election, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump continued their campaigns today in what's being projected as a tight race. CTV's Rachel Aiello has more from the campaign trail.
She broke it, we will fix it.
We are not going back.
The U.S. presidential election is just 3 days away. Today, both Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democratic candidate Kamala Harris hit the hustings in key southern swing states. Trump was in battleground North Carolina, the state he plans to spend every day in until Tuesday, and the only swing state he won in both 2016 and 2020.
Every problem facing us can be solved, but now the fate of our nation is in your hands. We win this state, we're going to win the whole ball game. You know.
Before also touching down in North Carolina, Harris held a rally in Atlanta, Georgia, where she encouraged her supporters to get out the vote.
No one can sit on the sidelines. Let's spend the next 3 days knowing that when we look back on these 3 days, we will have no regrets about what we could have done.
Saturday is the 4th day in a row that VP Harris and former President Trump are stumping in the same state on the same day. With the race for the White House still a dead heat, both campaigns are focusing efforts in their final weekend on swaying undecided voters. Rallying last night in Wisconsin, Trump, microphone in hand, kept up the personal attacks.
We don't need a low IQ individual. We just had that for 4 years.
While Harris's campaign kept the celebrity endorsements coming, and more are expected.
I'm not taking any chances with my future, and I damn sure and taking no chances with the future of my children.
There are around 625,000 American voters in Canada eligible to vote in Tuesday's U.S. election. With a potential Canada Post strike looming, any of those who haven't voted yet are being encouraged to use a courier service to submit any last-minute mail-in ballots. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Back here in the city, a local author teamed up with the Thunder Bay Museum to host a book launch for the release of Follow the Tracks. The book commemorates the veterans through the history of the Lake Superior Regiment, honoring the legacy and sacrifices of those who served in the Second World War. Emmett Chilton has this story.
Author James Eldridge launched his book Follow the Tracks with a book signing at the O'Kelly VC Armory. The book chronicles the history of the Lake Superior Regiment during the Second World War, based on oral history interviews with over 80 soldiers. Aldridge describes his book signing as a heartwarming experience filled with meaningful moments connecting with his hometown and sharing stories with the descendants of the soldiers featured in his book.
But to see all these people coming here, and then for me to learn so much detail of their lives, of their fathers and their uncles and their neighbors and so on, it's been a real nice, heartening experience to meet people like that from my hometown. It probably is over their paths.
Director of the Thunder Bay Military Museum, George Romick, noted that around 130 people attended the event, with most being descendants of soldiers from the Lake Superior Regiment who served in World War II.
Actually, the turnout was very good. I figure we had probably about 120 to 130 people in attendance, and a lot of them were relatives of Lake Superior Regiment motor soldiers from World War II.
The author shared his inspiration and process for writing the book, read selected passages, and signed copies for the attendees. A copy of the book was available for free to each of the interview's descendant family. For anyone interested, copies of the book are available at the Thunder Bay Museum. Emma Chilton, TBT News.
There's even more for local history buffs at the Thunder Bay Museum, as 2 new exhibits are now on display. One of them features the archaeology of northwestern Ontario and the Lake Superior area. The other one teaches visitors about the progression of air traffic control in Canada. Brendan Miller got a tour of both exhibits and has this sneak peek.
The 3rd floor at the museum now features a journey through time. It's a deeper look into the archaeology of the area surrounding Lake Superior and northwestern Ontario. There's a plethora of tools and other items that date back nearly 10,000 years. Each item is unique, but all come from around this region and some parts of northern Minnesota. Museum Executive Director Scott Bradley explains why this exhibit is so intriguing.
Everything from copper artifacts to lithics to pottery. I mean, some things that people will probably be very surprised to see, especially some of the copper artifacts here that represent some of the earliest mined and worked copper in the world. Just some really fascinating stuff, and it's found within our city. You know, the map that we're looking at together here is showing that stuff is found right underneath our current city.
This exhibit was put together with the help from the Thunder Bay chapter of the Ontario Archaeological Society, the Department of Anthropology at Lakehead University, and Woodland Heritage North. It will remain on display until March. Meanwhile, on the 2nd floor at the museum, visitors will jump forward a few millennia for another new exhibit called Eyes on the Skies. The traveling display was brought here by Ingenium in collaboration with NAV Canada and will be on display until January 26th. It tells the story of air traffic control in Canada. There's even a pseudo-simulator that will give an idea of what an air traffic controller does on a daily basis, especially here in Thunder Bay.
Well, we think about, Thunder Bay as a resource town, as a transshipment town, but, Thunder Bay is also an aviation town. We're one of the busiest airports in Canada. I mean, we've got all kinds of, fire suppression happening here. We've got cargo flights. We've got flights out to the mines. We've got civil aviation. We've got commercial aviation. We've got people maintaining the hydro lines from our airport. There's a lot of aviation happening here. And it's really interesting to kind of explore the history of how we manage that airspace around Thunder Bay in northwestern Ontario.
Not only are there these 2 exhibits here at the Thunder Bay Museum, but plenty of others to explore. So come on out. It's absolutely fantastic here. Brendan Miller, TBT News.